Chapter 1. Everyone wants to marry a certain someone that she loves. There are people who go with arranged marriage, and there are some who are forced to marry or love someone unknown. This story is same. The two totally different people who knows nothing about each other start to live with each other. Their name were Daniel and Lana. They both were polar opposite, but still were married due to some circumstances. Daniel was a very nice and modest person. He had never gone in any relationship because by his point of view was being in a relationship with someone who wouldn't be with us in our life is just a waste of time. And Daniel was an introvert as well. But Lana was an extrovert, carefree person, and she also had some boyfriend in her life. So if we compare them both, they both were living in different worlds. Even after a year of marriage, they both were as new to each other as they were before. They both talked very less and wouldn't interfere with each other. They both never got into a fight because they were talking very less. One day when they both were being ready to go to their work, the news were reporting that how the compatibility of couples had started to increase and the divorce rate were lowering with a great speed.
They both thought in their mind that, I hope we both could have had a normal life as well. Then there was another news, saying that a mad scientist and his robots were sighted at outside of many houses at night, and they said to close the doors properly and be careful. Daniel and Lana both went to the work and worked the whole day. After the whole day, when they returned to home and had dinner, rested for a bit, and went to sleep again without talking with each other. Then Daniel and Lana both said we need to talk, but then they both understood what the matter was for talking and decided to talk about it tomorrow when the day was off. While they slept, a strange and sketchy person broke inside the house, and the night he did something to them, but he didn't touch anything, and he didn't even take anything from the house. When Daniel and Lana woke up, they found themselves in a cave. They both were confused, but when they looked around, and they found many ways inside the cave, and they both first sat down for a moment and thought of what was going on. Then they thought that probably they are dreaming, but they weren't. After some time, when they began to get hungry, Daniel said to Lana that, "Please stay here for a moment. I will bring something to eat," and went. For about an hour went by, and when Lana couldn't stop herself from thinking that what could have happened to Daniel, she walked in the direction of where he went, but after walking for some distance, she saw him running towards her and calling out, "Lana, come here." When he came near her, he held on to her hand and pulled her to a brightness. Then what she saw was very unbelievable for her. She saw a place with a house and a very beautiful garden, rabbits and butterflies. The house was surrounded from mountain that was a bit distance from her, and when they both started to walk towards the house, they saw that the cave disappeared from back of them, and suddenly came a hollow projection in front of them. That was the face of the mad scientist. He said that you both Daniel and Lana are chosen to play this game PTL, Path to Love. They both were shocked and were not able to understand what he was saying, but when he said that you are present at the starting dungeon, and from here you have to clear all the 50 levels and fight the most unpredictable boss. And each time they would die, they will return to the starting point, means this dungeon their home, and the hollow projection disappeared. They both were confused and went inside the house. They saw food in the kitchen because of hunger. They ate the food and went to see the rooms in the house and saw all the place where they were allowed to go. After roaming for a lot of time, when they came back to the house and sat down to talk, they didn't come up with what they had to talk, because they always had their work and something to do, so they talked very less time. Then Daniel said this all feels like this is just a dream, being in a game world and forgetting all the things that we were busy with. Lana said yes, we were always busy and we talked very less time. Maybe we should get out of this game as soon as possible and complete what was remaining in our own life. The next day, they went to the first floor, first level. There what they saw was very unbelievable. There were all the things were floating in the air, and their cloths were changed to some old-age fighting-type cloths. They were supposed to head-on face a platoon of strong men and move to the next phase. When they both tried to face them, they killed them in no time. But it didn't feel any other than playing a normal game. They didn't feel any pain, and they didn't got blood out of the body. The next time, they again tried but failed again. When the next time they tried, Daniel was surrounded from the men. But when he saw Lana, he saw that she was going to get pierced. Daniel threw his body in front of the spear, trying to stop it, but the spear pierced through them both when they returned to the dungeon's house. Lana got angry on Daniel and said, "Why did you get in between? At least when they killed me, you could have gone to the next level. Why didn't you?" Daniel said, "What would you have done if I were in the place where you were?" Lana said, "I would have jumped." Daniel said, "Why?" She said, "Because I am your wife, and you are my husband." Daniel said, "The same goes for me. If you are in danger, I have to protect you. That's what a husband does, doesn't he?" Lana cried and said yes. They both tried the next time, and they went to the next level by not even fighting, because they figured the key for passing. The key was that trusting each other and getting ready for doing anything to save each other. When they had that mindset in their mind, the soldiers didn't even touch them and showed them the way to the next level. Chapter 2. When they reached the next floor, the hollow projection came back and said that if you are seeing this, that means you have passed the one saint level, and now you are ready to reach the goal. All the answer or key for all the level is actually inside both of you. Just try to find out the things that are necessary for you to know about each other. After saying this, the projection ended, and they continued the adventure that awaited him. They had a lot of fun. Whenever they would die in the game, they would laugh and think about strategy to come out of the problem before noticing they had started to talk with each other as a proper married couple. They enjoyed all the moments spent with each other except some things. They knew everything about each other. Before knowing, the end level came, and they were ready to face anything that comes towards them. When they opened the door of the last floor, they saw a large statue of a couple holding hands. When they went near, feared and excited of fighting them, the both of the statues started to move and came to them and said, "Give answers to the questions that we give you." Daniel and Lana were confused, and then the both of the statue gave 2 papers in which there were 25 questions about their partner. Daniel had to give answers about Lana, and Lana had to give the answers about Daniel. After the given time when the paper were given back, they both were smashed by the statue saying wrong. When they returned to their dungeon house and thought what they did wrong, they both started to cross-check the questions asked to them and found out that what they had in the mind for each other was the opposite to what they really were. Lana thought that Daniel needed a girl who would be like her, but actually he needed Lana to understand him. Daniel thought that because she had boyfriends, she would have got physical with them, but she never did. There were a lot of things that they opened up to each other, and then they came to know that they loved each other before even noticing. They went to the last level again, and now they were ready for anything that they would ask. The statue did the same thing that they had did before, but the questions were different. Now they knew everything that they needed to know about each other, and when the paper were returned to the statue, it said congratulations and showed a hollow projection of the scientist. He said that Daniel and Lana, both of you, congrats on finishing the game. Maybe you haven't noticed it, but this game was built to strengthen the bond between the 2 people who are married but are not living a life that they should. You are in love with each other, right? That was the main objective of this game. And don't worry when you will wake up. It will still only be an hour gap in the day when you came in here, because this game feels like that you have been playing it for a whole year, but in the real world, it only have took about an hour. Please go back to the real world and start a new life. When they both heard this, they realized that all the levels they played in this game were actually giving them the basics for life, like respect, trust, knowing about each other, and many more things. While they both were talking about it, the whole world of the game started to disappear, and then they started to look like the were waking up. And suddenly, Daniel and Lana both woke up. They both saw each other, hugged each other, and then, when they saw the time, it was still morning of that same day when they entered the game. They saw the sun rising together and felt as if now they have to start a new life at all costs. After the incident that happened in their life changed totally for both of them. They started to become a true married couple, and they started to say thank you more. They started to talk more. They shared their life abouts more. And most important of it, they loved each other more day by day. Chapter 3. Right after some months of the incident, they were living a great life, but while they were seeing the news in the morning, they saw that the scientist was actually caught by the cops for suspicion and had arrested him. When they saw this news, Daniel and Lana rushed to the place where the scientist was kept. When they arrived, they saw that people had went on rampage and were asking for the release for him, And it wasn't 3 or 4 couples who came. Thousands of people had arrived there. It was looking like some big celebrity or a sensation has come to perform something. Everyone was angry and screaming that release the scientist. Daniel and Lana mixed with them and started to ask for release of the scientist. After some time, when the people were losing patience, the cops bought a big sheet and started to broadcast the interrogation between the officer and the scientist. Everyone became unusually silent and started to hear the sound of the speaker. The officer asked that why did you go to people's house and what were you doing to them? The scientist said that I have made a machine that when fixed on someone's head, it would have them enter a game that would make them feel that they are playing for years. But they would have only played for an hour or so. The game makes them realize the missing thing that would be the reason for the lack of their relationship. The officer said that I am impressed that you do such a thing so that people could be happy. But how do you find the person whose relationship is going good or bad? The scientist said that I made a robot who scans the face of the person and tells the average of smiles and behavior and perfectly predicts that they would want my help or not. The officer said, I am really impressed, sir, but what is the reason of you doing such a thing? You have a great talent for inventing things and doing the impossible turn over to possible, but what made you start all this? The scientist started to say about himself. His name was Arnold. He was a scientist who had a very good going life and a great wife who was a relationship consultant. Life was going pretty good. They both had all the things that they needed and whatever they could ask, but the only thing that they lacked was a child. Arnold thought that maybe God was very happy on him when he heard that his wife was pregnant. Arnold was very happy and could die of happiness, but the time did something that was totally opposite of happiness. When his wife was in her 6th month, she had a bad person who came for her consulting. Whenever that person would come, she would talk oppositely of her advice and her trying of help. One day, when she was thinking about the person, she got a mental stress and was about to fall, but a robot saved her who was made by Arnold. When Arnold came home back from his job, he saw his wife sleeping on the floor, and the robot was trying to pick her up carefully. Arnold hurried her to the hospital, and when the doctor saw and examined her, the doctor said that she shouldn't take stress and she should stop her work from now on. Arnold took very good care of her, but somehow that person would contact her, and despite that, she would try to consult that person either way. But what the person would give her was only problems and tension for her. Once she said to Arnold that if something happens to her, Arnold has to take care of the children, and he have to make people life better with the person they belong. Arnold laughed and said, "What are you saying? Nothing will happen to you. And don't worry, I am trying to make something that would make you help people in their relationship." After some time, when she was about to give birth, Arnold took her to the hospital, and when she was about to give birth, there were some complications in her giving birth. Arnold got very stressed that what was going on. When at last his wife was able to give birth to a healthy child, the doctors came out of the room and said, "You have become a father. She gave birth to a girl, but your wife didn't make it." Arnold was so shocked that he didn't utter a word, and he was just staring at the doctor. And then the doctor said that she isn't dead, she is alive. Those words were like the thing that made him feel like he just revived from death. Arnold asked, "Then what is the issue?" Doctor said that from the pain of giving birth and mental pressure she went to coma. Arnold was mixed with feelings like anger, happiness, sadness, and much more. He was feeling like he would burst from it. But rather than doing something else, first he saw his child, did all the paperwork, and then gone to see his wife and cried a lot, suffered from seeing her like this, and then he went to the person house who was playing around with her wife and made both of them regret their doing. After some time, he went to his wife again, and while seeing her and talking with her, Arnold fell asleep. The other day when he woke up, he fixed to do all the things that her wife had asked and started to take care of his child. Arnold said to the cops that it had been 2 years, and tomorrow is my girl's 2nd birthday as well as my wife's 2-year in coma. While hearing this, the cops, Daniel, Lana, and everyone had tears in their eyes. After hearing all of this, Arnold the scientist was released, and when he came out of the police quarters, an ambulance came near the place, and when everyone saw the ambulance, there was a doctor. He came outside and said, "Arnold, your wife, please come quick." When he rushed and arrived at the hospital, Arnold saw his wife sleeping in the bed. When Arnold asked about how she is and said, "I am here, I am Arnold," she opened her eyes and said, I am back." They both cried. When Arnold asked how did she gain consciousness, a nurse said that, while hearing you in the TV live news, she started to react and regained her consciousness. Being in coma doesn't mean that they can't hear things, they just can't do anything. After that, the next day when she was able to talk a little bit, Arnold took her child and came to celebrate her birthday with her mother. When Arnold's wife saw her child's face, she burst into tears and called out to her. Her child was scared because she hadn't seen her mother in her 2 years of life. But when she saw her mother crying, she somehow felt a connection and went near her and said, "Ma," her first words. With time, Arnold's wife became fine as ever and was discharged. He was charged for barging into others' house without permission, but because of the people's notice, they made it very less cost. Daniel and Lana both went to see Arnold and his family. While they were in the hospital, Lana was pregnant at the time. Arnold even started his own company that was very helpful for gaming and relationship consultant. Life is not only about how you live or with whom you live, it is also the value of with whom you share the bond of love with. Love cannot be said that it started at a certain point. It happens with us not noticing, but leaves a very strong mark in life.